Hey everyone, it's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, bringing you back another slice of social media pie. And this is like my live podcast, if you will, where I bring on inspiring guests to inform and educate you. And look who I have with me here today, Carissa Wesson. Hey Carissa, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good.
It's so good to see you. And Carissa and I, we know each other from an organization called Together Digital, and we both belong to the Detroit chapter. And Carissa gave this awesome workshop called Resume Design Tips. It's in the topic here below for our group a couple months back. And I'm like, this is awesome. You should come on live with me sometime. So I think I twisted her arm a little bit. And I said, you want to come on with me? And you so graciously agreed, Carissa. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to the chat today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Great. Well, we'll get into it in just a minute here. But what I want to do right now, we had a couple of little audio glitches with yesterday's show. So I want to make sure the stream is working. So if you're watching this, because you may hear, could you go below and add a comment? So if you add a comment, just let us know the stream is working, the sound sounds okay. And, you can tell us how the weather's going today, where you are. And here's my little hack on this. If you are watching this in your desktop, I know sometimes when you leave a comment, it kind of hiccups and you lose the stream. Here's my hack. You guys ready for this? This is what I do. I watch it in the laptop, and then I pull it up on my phone, and I go into the live stream on my phone, and I leave the comment here. That way the stream isn't disrupted. Okay. So if you guys could do that, and then I'm seeing the comments that are starting to come in. Dr. Arifa Garman, thank you so much, Arifa, for leaving that comment. And I appreciate you guys doing that because that lets us know that you're watching, right? So Carissa, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are. I know you've got some great graphic design background, and that's kind of where we're focusing on today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I went to school for graphic design, and I pretty much from there turned it into, I also have a marketing degree. So I really like to focus on those two things. So it's something that I do in all my work is I'm designing with like the marketing mindset. So I really started taking interest in resume design when I was really struggling to find a good way to design my own resume. And as a creative, I do have a lot more freedom. So I was like really started looking at like, what are tips? How do you get through systems? Like what should I be telling people about myself? And so I really just got a passion for doing this type of stuff because I just find it really interesting. And I know everyone struggles with talking about themselves, and I know I really struggled with it. So it's something that I just kept looking up more information about because I really wanted to present myself on the best way that I can when it comes to looking for a new job. So yeah, that's about me.
Because we see so many people talking nowadays too, Carissa, from the perspective of an HR manager or recruiter, like how do you make your resume ATS compliant? And that's a whole other, we're not getting into that today.
Yeah,
this is more like the aesthetics, like what does it look like? I like how you were saying the marketing perspective of your resume. So I see all of these great comments. I see a fellow, Informer member and former member Together Digital, Maggie Walsh, watching us, and I'll continue to bring your guys' comments up on screen here as we're going throughout. But just want to get our conversation started. And as you have questions about this, feel free to drop your questions in the chat because a little bit later on, Chris is going to be giving us, some answers to your questions too. So what we're going to do now, Chris, I think we're going to change gears, and I'm going to add in the presentation that you shared with me, and then I'll give you control, and I'll probably jump in and ask some questions as we go along.
Right. Perfect.
Take us from here. Here we go.
Yeah. So this is my resume design workshop, so I'm Carissa. I'm a visual designer. Sorry, my little mouse is on the screen. And so the biggest thing that I pride myself on is creating clear visuals that connect with people. And I do that across all different types of channels. And I feel like resume is one of those channels. So these are the three things that I'm going to focus on for this talk is how your resume looks, some helpful tips on like your design of your resume and the wording of your resume. And then I'm also going to show you some simple and free templates or programs that you can use if you want to design a resume. So those are just the three main topics that I'm going to talk about. So when it comes to resume design, the biggest thing that I like to say is that you have to keep your information clear and it has to be easy to read. You don't want someone struggling to find your phone number or your email address because that sets you off at a really bad foot right there. And then I also really like listing out your skills that you have. And then my biggest thing that I am very big at is make your links clickable. And I'll get more into that in a minute too. So when it comes to making your information clear, is that recruiters are spending very little time looking at your resume. It's an unfortunate thing. They get so many. So in those 7.4 seconds on average, that's when you have to make your impression. That's all you have. So it's very important that they can get to know you in that very limited amount of time. So a question that I have is, if you're looking at this resume and you got this, so put yourself in, like, you're the recruiter or the HR person. Can you find this person's phone number? Is it easy to find if you're looking at this resume? That's the biggest question.
Where is it on this? Is it like sideways? And,
it is sideways. So something for this, like, does the person have to put in extra work to find your information? So that's something that to keep in mind. So when you compare it to this one, can you find the phone number? How easy is it to find from here? They have a little, if you look, they have a little mobile phone, and there's their phone number right there. So just as a little bit of a difference, and that's what I mean about, like, keeping your information clear and easy to find, is all of this stuff, I don't have to dig for it. It's right there, super easy. So that's one of the things that I very much push, is just those type of things. So when we look at it, if someone wanted to read this resume and find your information, these are the steps they had to take. They have to turn your resume. If you think about it, in those 7 seconds, if they're taking that, how much time are they wasting trying?
Apologies.
Ooh, sorry.
I couldn't hear what
my Apple Watch went off.
Sometimes I say, "Hey Siri," and my phone's like, "How can I help you?"
Yes, very much so. So, they have to put that extra work in. So you're wasting your 7 seconds by them having to turn the resume to find out, oh, Richard is a digital marketer. This is what he does. This is his website, those type of things. So that's just something that I think is really important. Just don't make people dig for your stuff.
Okay.
So these are two examples of an example. Sorry, I think there's two examples of how I think it's easy to make your information clear. Like, if you look at this, you can see Monica is a digital project manager, and you can see Joan is a creative director. Super easy to find right away. If I look at their resume, I immediately know, hey, they're applying for this digital marketing job or digital project manager job. That's what it is. This is what they do. So just those type of things, so people can easily find out what you do. That's just something that I feel like is just a good practice to have. It's just, keep that information clear and available.
Awesome. Were those the header? It actually looks like a LinkedIn header, but that was the header on the top of the resume.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a personal choice. If you want to put a photo in there, that's up 100% up to you. Okay. You don't have to. I don't have one in mine. I do have information about what I do, like, on mine, but that's 100% up to you. I just put that example because I know a lot of people do want to put their photo in there. So, but it's just an easy way that you can do it. So another thing that I like to talk about on your resume is, like, what type of skills do you have? So with that is, I like to make your resume skimmable, because again, you have to think about, someone's looking at it for 7 seconds. Are they going to be able to look through my resume and be able to tell them, hey, I am applying for this position and I do have the skills, I know the software, those type of things. So it's something in addition to, on top of that, it also is a way for the tracking systems that a lot of companies use, is they scan for those skills. And if you have them put in your resume spelled out, then they're going to be able to find those skills. So another little tidbit. So one thing too is, you can call your skills whatever you want to call them. On mine, this is part of my resume. I have creative skills and I have additional skills. And I have software skills. I just chose to break mine up this way because for me, it made sense. Just because I do have these different things, and I personally, when I talk about them, I put them in different categories. And then I've done a few where I call them tools. Same thing. Skills, tools, you're using those software, you're making an actual list about the experience that you have in a more digestible way. You can talk about these again in long form, but I still like them being easily listed out. And then this is another one. You have your key strengths and you have your areas of expertise.
Could you leave this for a second, Carissa? Because one thing, if you don't mind, I want to jump in and add in. You talked about the marketing aspect of your resume. And what I love is you've kind of created, like, in marketing terms, we call this short, snackable chunks of copy.
Yes.
And what I love is you're giving me a heading, which is like a cue to me. What can I see in this list? Because if there's a lot of things, if there's like more than 5 items in the list, it kind of like, there's a lot, right? So, but if you chunk them out, creative skills, software skills, that helps the reader, I think, right, to understand that.
Yep, it very much so. And one little thing that goes with it too is, so I do have a background in graphic design. I'm doing email marketing coding now. And then I also have done social media design. So it's kind of like a wide variety of things that I've done over my career so far. So what I do is I actually move my creative skills depending on what I'm applying for. So for this one, I obviously was applying for one where I'd be doing more social media and email. So those are the things I put at the top. And I have a list of all of my skills that I use, and I delete them and take them out and move them around every time I apply for a job. Because some of these they're not needed, and it just makes your resume look really long.
Right.
So this one, obviously, I was doing a lot of things. That's the only reason I kept that many. But
it's good that you're explaining this, because some people, I think, they get guilty of, and I know we're not talking about kind of the HR recruiters. We're talking more about the marketing and the design aspect. But some people get so, I just need a job. I want a job. So I'm just going to put everything in there and hope that something sticks. And then it's like overwhelming. But what it sounds like you're doing is you're kind of pulling out keywords that are not relevant. You're kind of sculpting your resume, right? And then you're keeping things in that are, and that makes it that work of art when you get done with it.
It does. And an easy way that I do this too is I have multiple copies of my resume. One that is focused more on social media. So all of my social stuff is up there. And then one that is focused more on my graphic design part of it. So then all my graphic design stuff is first, and I took out a lot of the social. And then one that is more of like the email side. So because I've done email, I have my email on it, and those are all the skills. And then some other ones got removed. And it's just an easy way. And on my back end, I do call them, like, I have a folder that says, this is my social media resume. This is my resume for email. This is my resume for graphic design. And it's just the same resume. I just have deleted things and moved stuff around. And that's a nice little thing that you can do for the skills too.
That's awesome. Really cool.
Thanks. So my next thing is about making links clickable. So these days you can do it in any program, and links that you can make clickable that I do is you can make your LinkedIn clickable. So you can make your website clickable or your portfolio, and you can make your email address clickable. I just find it a very helpful way to make sure that someone's going to be able to get in contact with you. So this is an example I have. So if I'm a recruiter, putting my recruiter hat on again, and I wanted to look at this person's portfolio, I would have to type in this entire thing. And I honestly probably wouldn't do it. It's a lot. Or if I wanted to go to their LinkedIn, I have to type in their entire LinkedIn, or I have to type in their entire email address. So those are just some things that why I like to make those clickable, is because it makes it easier. Easier.
I see. And I don't know if this is a real person, this Joanne Rose Pecan.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a cool name. She could have a great pie. We call it a Joanne Rose Pecan pie. But in her URL, she's got the gobbledygook, the number of characters at the end. And you should clean that up. And I'm showing you guys Carissa's LinkedIn URL below here as an example. For the very reason she just described. What if they do have to type it in? What if the link doesn't work? And then they have to go, Joanne, is it NNE? Does it end in a single N? Is it an E?
Yep.
And then is it 9499 or 9949? Like, it's confusing. So if you can make it, I recommend first name, last name, very, very simplified URL. It makes it a lot easier if they do have to type it in. But definitely in Chris's, piece of advice here, make it clickable, because it makes it so much easier for people.
Yeah, very much easier. So this is just how mine is clickable. So if you click on my resume, it goes to my email or it goes to my portfolio. And it's just something that I've done to make it easier for people to be able to see my things. So then they're more likely to go, sorry, that's a little fast, but they're more likely to go through and actually look at my stuff. So that's just what I mean by making it clickable, is if they hover over it, it's going to pop up and you can go right to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are some more of like my helpful tips about customizing your resume. A big thing that I talk about is like your action and power words, and then Googling your resumes for the jobs that you're going for or your job that you have, just to be like, oh yeah, I did do stuff like that. I have done some things like that. It just makes it a little easier when you're, so again, it's hard to talk about yourself. So right. It just makes it a little easier by doing those couple of things. So like I was talking about, about customizing your resume. So I do have like the multiple examples on my resume. So from my experience at my my last job, I listed it as like the graphic designer. This was for a senior designer role. So I said that I worked on the campaigns, the brainstorming things, I created logos, those type of things. And then all I did when this one was used for social media is I just took those same things and I just moved them around. And I put the social media stuff first, and then, some other things that go with it. And those simple changes are, just some hopefully easy copying and pasting, but it does make a big difference when someone's looking at it. If I'm applying for a social job, at the very first thing of all of my skills should be about social for every single one of my jobs, because that's what I'm applying for.
Yeah. And here's a little thing to reminder on that note, too, Carissa, for people that are watching. And I see a lot of people watching right now on LinkedIn. A lot of job seekers that are hungry. And there's also people who are, I kind of like to say, they're using LinkedIn in stealth mode. They're working, but looking, and they don't want people to know. So they're kind of watching, and they may not be commenting, but I know there's a couple of people that have questions. So, from a marketing perspective, and I don't mean this, but it's going to help you remember, people are lazy. What I mean by that is they're going to start at the top of your resume and they're going to read down. At some point, they're going to stop reading. So knowing that, for every position, to Carissa's point, make sure the first bullet lines up with the goals of the position. And especially, those first couple. And then things that aren't relevant, take them out because they're not going to read it. And the less information you have, the more concentrated it is, the better they're going to read everything in there. And they're going to go, wow, Carissa's perfect for this role, right? So just a little shout out. I know there's people watching right now. They're probably like, and I want to just reiterate that point because I think it's so important. Not just to cram everything in there, but to be very focused and keep the important stuff. It's like cream at the top of a milk glass. It rises to the top. So you want to keep the important stuff at the top there.
Yes, for sure. And that it's with the experience, the skills throughout the whole thing. That's why I'm very big on just once you make your resume, just copy the resume, even if you date it. Like this is my June resume or my April, and then just moving things around based on what you're applying for. And I customize my resume for every job that I apply to. It's work, but I do go through and make some little quick self edits, resave it, and then just go forward from there. Just like you do your cover letter. I just feel like it's such an important part of that whole puzzle when you're, applying for jobs.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this is some information about like using your power words or your action words. They're called a couple different things. So these screenshots are actually, I took them in like 2004 or 2014, sorry. And I was like redoing my resume after I graduated from college, and I was having a really hard time finding an internship. And I've saved these screenshots since that time. And I break them out anytime that I am trying to redo my resume, and I really focus on like what are the things that I do. Like if you look at it, the example, like what's better? Is it better to say like I wrote copy for several social media channels, or does it sound more action focused when you say I authored content for multiple social media accounts? Just adding in those few words makes a big difference. And these also can be helpful for me. I know when I'm creating things, so I'm like, oh, I created social media graphics, I created print graphics, I created email design. You start using those same words and it does get really repetitive. So I try to use different action words to help that and to make it a little easier, or for people to fully understand like what I'm doing and all of that stuff. So these are just some things, and you can Google action words or power words. I've seen them both ways. So it's a nice little tidbit. And I feel like it also helps you start off on the right foot when you're thinking about, what did I do at this job? And it gives you like a little word to start with and then go from there. So those are some little things. And these are some of the words that I pulled out that I use where I'm solving problems. I proposed things, I authored, I pioneered, I increased, I optimized, I implemented, I developed. So those words are just really good. And the full list that I use is from kickresume.com, and they have a list of 222 action verbs is what they call theirs. And theirs is in like an infographic. So it's really easy to use, and it's all broken out by the type of jobs that you do. So there's one for creative, one's for writers, different things like that. So it's just like a nice little way to find those things. So hopefully that helps, with those. And that's just kind of, when I write about myself, this is what I really do look at and start with to be able to find out where I'm going, what I'm trying to tell someone about myself.
Right. So. And I just Googled it in the background.
Awesome.
And it's a blog within the Kick Resume website that has this. So I dropped it in here, and I'm going to put it in the LinkedIn as well. So if you guys are watching it in playback, look for it in the comments. I'll put it in the YouTube show notes too, so you can check it out, make it a little bit easier. But this is awesome. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So 2015, that's when it was from. So yeah, that's when I've had it. And whenever anyone asks me for help on their resume, or I have designed people's resumes before, I still start with these words every single time. It's such an easy way for me to kick off the rest of my sentence. So a nice little tidbit.
Great. Good.
So what I mean about Googling your future job title or someone with your current job title, if you're just trying to make a transition to another company, is when you work somewhere, you're in the dirt, you're like digging through every single day. And a lot of times you don't think about something that you did 8 months ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, because you are in it. And if you're not constantly updating your resume, things like that do get lost. So I like to just Google the job title just to spark some inspiration, because you could be like, whatever someone did, they're like, oh, I led a project and did this. And you're like, oh man, I've led a bunch of projects. And then you look at your resume and none of that's in there. Or you've mentored interns, or you've just done things like that. And I just find it a really helpful tip is just, like I said, to just Google your future job title or your current one, just to see what other people with those same titles are doing, or what you could potentially do with your new job. And so it could help you find like duties or, for your new job, or see examples. So I feel like it's such a good way to just kick off, your resume, your redesign, anything like that. It's just a very simple search. You can look at images, look at all different kinds of things. So I really recommend doing this.
That's a great tip. And it's something like any of us can do, because I think a lot of people struggle with, what should my resume look like? And especially if you work in a creative field or something, like, what are other people doing for a graphic designer? What are other people doing for a marketing director? But even then, what is a standard template? You might be a new graduate. Yeah. Maybe you're in a career transition, not by choice. You've re-entered the job search market and you've been out of it for a long time. Like, I don't even know where to start. But you can pull up some of these resumes and they'll give you some inspiration on just what the general look is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Even that, just looking to, if you're struggling with like how do you list your different jobs, or how do you list your skills? How do I talk about my education? It's just a nice way to be like, oh, hey, this is out there. This is how they listed theirs. I can do a similar thing for mine. And it's just a way to, get yourself started. And I feel like by doing this, it makes it feel not as overwhelming, because redesigning your resume or updating it can be very overwhelming, especially if you're really looking for a job and you're, get to that point. So it's just a nice thing to do that hopefully will, give you some more ideas for yourself.
And sometimes, Carissa, too, done is better than perfect. Like, just get the first,
very much.
Get going, get applying, and start applying for jobs, and then you'll figure it out. You'll tweak. It's just like your LinkedIn. You'll tweak and modify it along the way, but get going. Right, done is better than perfect.
Yeah, for me personally, when I was job searching, I was updating my resume every month. Every month I had a folder and it said whatever date it was, updated it, just saved a brand new copy of all my files again, and just started, just was like, oh, I don't need this, or this is old, or whatever. Every month, that's what I personally was doing, just because I felt like it helped me.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
So this is these are some places where you can get some free templates. So I recommend you can use Google Docs, you can use Canva, and I'm pretty sure that Word still has templates, but I haven't had Word since college, so I couldn't, I can't tell you about that. I know that they used to. I'm guessing they probably still do, but these ones are ones you don't have to have any, you don't have to pay for. You don't have to have Word, you don't have to have any of those things.
Oh, that's a good
these
point.
are the two.
There might be somebody who's like at home, they have a computer, but they don't have the Microsoft suite, and they don't want to purchase it, and they don't have the money for it right now. So you can go into Google Doc, and it's basically, it's like Google Doc is like, it's a Word document, but it's sitting on Google, and it's Google's form of Word, right?
Yeah, and you can save it as like a, you can save from Google as like a document, or you can save it as a PDF. You can save it as like a, so it can be open in Word or any of those things. So that's kind of why I these are the two that I went with, because anyone can do them. You don't have to pay anything. So the free options, let's see. So what you do in Google, if you've never seen it, when you go to Google, you go to your drive, you hit new, it says, you go to Google Doc, and then it says templates. It says from a template, and you just click that button. And last time I looked, they had, these are the free templates that they had. Okay. So it's a very easy way to get started. And one thing that is helpful about these is they do have stuff laid out already. So you just have to put your personal information in there. You can make updates to any of those things, you know, the colors, if you want to take out the color, change the fonts, all that stuff is very easy to do in Google. So that's just one that I recommend because it's free, and it's, you know, at this point, I feel like most people have Gmail accounts, have had to get them because of phones or any of that stuff. So
right. And nice speaking of, if you have an email that you're using on a resume, this is just a little, like, you don't want to look like a dated candidate.
Yes.
So if you're using like an AOL or what are the other ones, like, don't even exist? Does Yahoo Mail exist? I don't know. Like,
I think it does. Yahoo, okay. Hotmail.
Hotmail doesn't exist anymore. So I had a Hotmail.
I still have my Hotmail from 5th grade. I use it for my junk stuff.
Yeah.
It still works.
But it doesn't look good on a resume because it does not. Like you're not keeping up with the technology, especially if you're worried about age discrimination or people perceiving that you're not keeping current with technology. You know, then you put an AOL or an email on your resume. Yep. So you can go to gmail.com, get a free email address. So Google's some other type of free stuff, right, Carissa?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. And I personally decided back in college that my Gmail is only for professional things, job hunting, those type of things. My other emails are where everything else goes. And that's just what I've done. And I will say, I don't mind managing multiple email accounts because it keeps things very easy and very separate. And I know if someone's coming into my Gmail, what it's going to be about. So that's just what I have chosen. So it's a little helpful thing.
Right.
So another thing that you can do is you can utilize Canva. And so Canva, you can do a free account. There's a bunch of free options. And you can just go to Canva templates, and then you go to resumes, which is right here. And they do have some free options. And I will say, what I do is Canva, you can download it as a PDF, and I only use those when I'm emailing someone directly. I've just found when I do those, it makes it a little better. A lot of times with the application tracking systems, they don't like PDFs. So I have like a document, I have a Word doc of mine that I just downloaded from Google Docs, made my resume, and that is the one that I apply to jobs with. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I just have found when I've done it that way versus sending my PDF that is very designed, I just get more responses.
Yeah, and I think there might be some recruiters that are watching this. And you guys, if you are recruiters, please feel free to add in your comments or your observations to what Chris is sharing. And I've already seen a couple people asking questions about, should I put photos? Because what about the forms of discrimination that occurs? And what's the rationale for including or not? I don't want to, Carissa's background is graphic design and marketing. So I want to kind of keep the questions focused there. But if you're a recruiter and if you have comments on those subjects, or if you have some expertise in any of those areas about ATS compliance and stuff like that. And I have heard, Carissa, if you create a graphic resume, like a Canva PDF, it's not going to be scannable, perhaps. So if you use it in perhaps stock, and I don't know exactly because I'm not a technical recruiter ATS person.
Me
but
either,
if you guys are, feel free to jump in the conversation.
Yeah. And mine is like, I used to always send my PDF, and then I started doing like some testing towards the end of me applying last time, just to be like, because I read something about using like a doc, and I was like, well, let me just try. So I started doing some testing, and I was getting some more calls, and then I found a job, so I stopped. So, but this is just, I like to use, when I'm sending someone my resume, you can still use these tips about like using your skills, using all that in the docs. You can 100% do that. Canva is if you want to use like a PDF one and you just are going to send it directly to someone. Again, it goes with me having multiple copies of my resume. It's the same way for this, is where I have a bunch of different options so that I can send them where I need to. So you never know. And
use too, Carissa, if you're mailing a copy, it doesn't need to be scanned, because if it's scanning, it's scanning digitally, right?
Yes. Different things. And, some people, when you apply to jobs, there are different options for how they will let you upload it. So that's just something to keep in mind too. But Canva is a very good free resource, especially if you want to do something that's more stylistic. They have a lot of different options. Like last time I looked, they had 1,350, I think that's 54 options. Wow. A lot of those are free. So there's so many options, and there's different options for a bunch of different people. So it's up to you. You can fully go in there. Even if you go into Canva and you look at something, you can always make that in Word if you have those skills. So that's another option too, just to be like, hey, I liked how they listed this. And so you can then take that and make your own.
That is a great point. And I just want to echo that again. So if you're struggling with, I want to do a design of my resume in Word, but how should it, and I even look at the one on screen. Okay, maybe it's not a photo if you don't want to use a photo, maybe it's an icon or something, but then their name is like big and bold and all caps. And then they've got like a line down the side. So you could use these as inspiration for design, but then design it in Word if you're struggling with what should it look like. I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, it is. And I do like to use PDF ones just because my resume is more designed, but that's why I said I started testing it out, because I just read an article that was like, PDF ones are out for tracking systems. I was like, okay, let me see if that's for real. So that's kind of when I was experimenting, but I never fully finished that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So those are just those are my tips that I have for when you're designing your resume.
I love it.
The little puppy.
What kind of dog is that? Is that like a?
I have no idea what dog it is.
I know somebody who's watching is like, oh, I know what kind of dog it is. It's a cute little dog. It's a fuzzy little dog. All right, so I'm going to bring us back up into the regular screen mode here, and we're going to move now into some Q&A. If you guys have any questions or comments, and I see there's a couple recruiters on with us. So Elias, for example, is giving a great tip here. So save your resume as, and this is talking about the naming of your resume. Did you use something similar for yours, Carissa? When
Yep. Mine is always my first name, and then and then I always said resume, cover letter, portfolio, whatever it was. I put everything right in there.
So that's the file name is what we're referring to.
The file name.
The properties, right?
Yep. Okay. Not the documents, not on my end. I mean, on my end, you can name, when you're working on it, you can name it whatever you want. But when you go to save it, it definitely should be your full name, full first name, your full last name, and then what it is.
Yeah. I can't tell you when I was a hiring manager how many resumes I received, and the attachment was called Resume 2016. And then the problem is if you're a hiring manager and HR sends you all these resumes and you're downloading and then you're printing, and then I'm like, wait, did I print Carissa's or was that Joe's? And all it says is like Resume 2016.
Yep.
So then I'll be like, I'll just do it later, and later never comes, and then I missed your resume, like because it's still a lot of work to go through. So that's a really good point. And let's see here. I'm just kind of scrolling through comments. We got a lot of conversations that are going on here. And again, there's some folks that are asking about photos. I don't, if there are recruiters, you guys want to jump in, feel free. I see some people like Bill saying, don't use photos.
Yeah. I personally think it's a personal choice. I don't want to use my photo, but I have people who do want to use their photo, and that I feel like it's fully up to you. If one thing is, if you're going to use a photo, it needs to be a good quality. It needs to not be blurry. That's my biggest piece of advice. If you do use that, please make it look nice, not pixeled, not any of those things. So
right. Good point. Someone had asked the question, and this one, it says LinkedIn user. It's like a little gray avatar, so it's probably privacy settings. You're probably not comfortable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no worries.
But this person is saying how to use different resumes and still be consistent with your LinkedIn resume. Do you have any thoughts on that, Carissa? And then I'll add on to that.
Yeah, so how I use different formats is, like I said, at most of my jobs, I've carried multiple hats. So when I've worked, I've done social media, but I've also done the design. So all of that stuff is still on my LinkedIn with my same job title, the same time I was there. But all I've done with my resume is just move those skills around. Or if they don't relate to the new job I'm applying to, I just took them off. Because it makes it easier for me to be able to talk more about the things that relate directly to that job. So that's kind of what it is. And like I said, it's still consistent. I'm still listing my same job. All I'm doing is just moving around what I've done at that particular job to match what this new job is, so that you know right away, again, this is what I did here and it matches what you're hiring for here.
Very good. And I'll just add on to that. So a resume and your LinkedIn profile, guys, are marketing you and yourself. Now, when you apply on an application, that is a legally binding document. So you need to be 100% accurate and complete with the information. You can't say you went to Harvard and graduated if you only took an online course from Harvard and didn't get a grade, for example. But, having said that, you definitely want there to be consistency, at least from a high level content perspective, but you can start to kind of pare out the things that aren't relevant for you anymore and keep in the things that are relevant. And then, especially if I'm going to speak right now to those of you who are like maybe in stealth mode, like you don't want your employer to know that you're looking for a job. Like how do you ramp up your LinkedIn and make it match your resume? Just make yourself look like a really good brand ambassador of your company, because that throws them off the chase. They won't think anything of it. If you're promoting the company, you're talking about the company, you're sharing your company page post, you've got your headline all in the company. And then in the meantime, back behind in the experience section, you're building all this stuff up. They're not going to be worried about that. So it's a little bit of a stealth, right?
Yeah. And I also am a very big person on LinkedIn. When I'm updating my LinkedIn for like, I'm hired and I'm looking for a new job, I don't put those updates on to show up on the public, like my feed, because you can click that. Like it says, do you want to make an update? Do you want it to be?
No, they don't do that anymore. So now
they don't. Okay, good.
The broadcasts are if you start or end, if you start a new job or if you get promoted, that goes out. And this is something they didn't really tell us. It wasn't too long ago this happened. So if you start a new job, if you get promoted, there's a little button you have to enable. It says notify my network. If you start or complete an education, so Carissa started, Harvard University, whatever. And then if you completed a degree, you can flash that out. Or if you celebrate a work anniversary, all the other stuff like Carissa updated her photo, Carissa updated her headline. That doesn't happen anymore.
So it used to. And that's why I always used to be very much like, make sure every time click that button off to not notify your network, because when you're updating things, people know sometimes. So I'm glad it stopped.
I know it was annoying. So Dawn made a good point. Clickable links are great if you can get the links to work. So Carissa, thoughts on this? I mean, how do you get a link to work? And then what should you do to make sure it's working?
Yeah. So so one thing, even in Word, any of those things, you can highlight something and make it, and then, you just highlight whatever it is, make it clickable and go to the place where you want it to. One thing I like for that is like your LinkedIn, sometimes you have a bunch of numbers or whatever. If you're number 5, you can put, like I could put Carissa Wesson LinkedIn and make that whole thing clickable. And then it just goes to whatever page it is. I double check. I mean, I still, before I send my resume or send anything, I open my resume, click the buttons to make sure everything goes where it needs to go. And then that's what I send. Every time I look through to make sure, just because, sometimes you miss a random space or the same thing. I just double check, a quick look through just to make sure that everything is working the way that it should.
And I like how you said you can say Carissa Wesson LinkedIn. The only a concern or kind of caution I would have you guys think about is right now we're all digital and things are probably being passed around, right? But what if somebody prints up things and they hand it to somebody else, and then it says Carissa Wesson LinkedIn, and it doesn't have the URL, so I can't go and type it in. So I like to assume, and even though it's probably not likely, but assume that somebody might be looking at it in a hard copy where they can't click on it. So if you type out www.linkedin.com/in/Carissa Wesson, then they can type it in, and it should be hyperlinked. It should work there too.
Yeah. You also don't need the www dot anymore. If you were to just type in the rest of it, it will come up without the beginning part of it. So
so take out the especially like whenever I see
unnecessary things.
HTTP or HTTPS in certain places, like if you're in a Zoom chat, you want to use it because it makes it clickable. But on a resume, you don't need that. I'm not going to type in HTTP. I love you guys and all, but I'm not going to type in HTTP. Let's see. So there were some recruiters on here who agree with the thoughts there. Now this one, I don't know if Carissa, if you necessarily have any. I think they're talking about a mature candidate. I like to refer to you as experience rich, right? So experience rich. Any thoughts there on positioning?
Yeah. So what I like to do with someone who has more experience, like you've been working in your field for 10 years or any of those things, I personally like to spend more time talking about the things that you've done versus the jobs that you've held. If that makes sense. Like I like to really highlight, hey, these are my skills. Like these are the things that I've done. These are the experiences I've done. I've been working in this field for 15 years, or I've been working on emails for 15 years, or those type of things. And to me, once you become like a little more, you have more experience, the places you've worked aren't as important as like the skills that you've gotten from there. Obviously list all the places you worked, all the times, all of that stuff. But really when someone's looking at your resume, they're looking at you to be like, oh man, this person has all this experience. These are the things that they've done. So that's what I look at, or look at people, again, Google resumes for someone who's been in your role, and you might see how they handled that situation. But that's just the approach that I've taken when I've worked with someone who has been working for a long time.
All right. Awesome. And I see we're getting towards the end of our time. So first of all, I want to say, hey, Kelvin, you made it to a live stream. I know they're tricky, aren't they? They're hard to find. So welcome, sir. Glad to have you. So I have two final questions in the research to kind of wrap up here. Let's see here. I scrolled it and I got to go find it again here. We had a couple people asking about multiple page resumes. Thoughts on that, Carissa?
Okay. So I know it's always been held like one page, but I feel like once you've worked at 3 jobs, your stuff is not fitting on one page anymore.
Yeah.
Especially if you're highlighting it. My resume, so I graduated in 2014, and my resume is 2 pages, and it has been 2 pages for a while, because at this point I've held a few jobs doing different things, and I've gained different skills at each place. And I am on 2 pages, and I don't think I'll go back to 1 page. I just feel like at this point, the jobs that I've held, I've done so many things that the 2 pages work for me. And honestly, one thing that I do is I make sure that my 2 current jobs are on the first page.
Yeah, good point.
That's my skill. My 2 most current jobs, whatever they are, whatever I've done, they are on the first page with all the rest of it. And then my second page might have a couple, like my jobs are listed, and I just don't list as much stuff. I feel like the further away the job is, the least amount of things that you should list for that job. So like my first internship, I think that I have like 2 or 3 skills that I did there, and that's it.
Yeah, it's light, right?
Because again, it was in 2013, 2014. So it was a while ago. It's still on my resume because I did have the internship started out those, but it is lighter on those. And I feel like my heaviest focus is on my 2 most recent, and everything else on the second page. Obviously, I still pay attention to what is there, move things around, but there's just less of my actual skills listed.
Yeah. And you guys remember my tip, people are lazy. So let's consider the fact that they may only look at the first page, even though they know there's 2 pages of it. But I think the resume on 1 page rule was something we were all taught. It was pounded into our brains in college because we had no experience. If you had experience.
And in high school, all of those.
I know how often I've looked at resumes where they try to cram so much, and it's like 8-point font. And related to that, we had a question coming from Maggie about fonts. So thoughts on basic, not fancy, since the recruiter, they may not have a font on their machine. What do you think of that?
So I feel like if you're going to use fonts, if you're not a designer or creative, stick with one font, but you can use different weights. So you can maybe make your name bold And then maybe you make your headers bold, but it's a bigger font, or stuff like that. That is really my advice, to keep it simple for someone, but there's different things that you can do with your fonts to make those stand out. And it's just very simple things. In the fonts, again, you want your information to be easy to read. So don't go crazy with some scripts or cursive or those type of things all over, because that doesn't make it easy to read. Things really need to be readable, because again, that's what your resume is doing, is you're selling yourself through your resume. So that's kind of where it goes with fonts. Keep it simple.
All right. Awesome. Well, there are so many more questions that keep coming in. I'll encourage you.
Oh no, Brenda just froze.
We just froze. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we back? Are we back? Can you guys still hear?
I can hear you again. Okay, so Brenda froze again.
I'm still here.
Okay,
guys.
all right, good.
I don't know what's happening. And it's happening with both of us. So I was telling Carissa at the beginning, this is hosted on StreamYard. So I said, if anything hiccups, just wait, because if it's you, I'll wait for you to come back, and if it's me, I'll come back in too.
Yeah. And keep it all in there.
And I'm going to add myself in from the phone here. Oh, now I get an echo. Oh, that's not going to work. All right, so we're just going to try this, and we're going to move to wrap. Okay. Carissa, any final comments that you have on resume design for the group?
I would say, I guess my final comment would be, reread your resume all the time. Okay. I've reread my resume a bunch of times and randomly found an extra word that was in there twice. All the times I'd looked at it. Look at it often. It's the best thing I can do. Just make those changes, look at it, reread it, have someone else reread it. All of those things are probably the most helpful thing you can do for your resume. It's just that constant editing, that self-editing is going to make the world of difference for, hopefully getting your next job.
All right. Awesome. And StreamYard keeps hiccuping, you guys. I'm sorry, Carissa, it's not you.
It's okay. It was good.
I know StreamYard, like both of us are going blank. So I'll make sure we include your call to action. But we have CarissaWesson.com. So if you guys go to her LinkedIn profile, Carissa, are you open to accepting new invitations if people connect with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just add me on there. It's good. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Definitely looking at things daily, in my industry, all types of stuff. So yeah, please let me know if you have any questions too. Send me a message. I'll respond.
And I'm going to try to pull her profile up on screen real quick if it'll let me do this. Let's see if it'll let me do this. Okay, I think I've got it up on screen. All right, there she is. So here's my advice for you guys. When you are connecting with people, whether it's Carissa, recruiters, hiring managers, when you go to their profile and you click on the connect button, it'll give you an option, either add a note or send. Now, you always, always, always want to add a note. And for Carissa, maybe say, hey, I saw you on the live interview with Brenda today. I loved your tips about X, Y, and Z. So include that little note in there. And do you help people with resume design? Is this a service that you offer, Carissa, or is this just something you're giving as insights?
I have offered it as a service. I'm just a little busy with other freelance stuff right now, so I haven't been, but I have in the past. So, okay. I mean, you never know. I never know what's going on. So you can always reach out and I can be like, yes or no, or recommend someone for you.
All right. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
As we leave the video, I just want to remind you guys that are watching, when you get done, could you do me a favor? Go back on the video, go back and find it in my activity feed and click on share, and maybe share it with somebody who's a job seeker, somebody who's in career transition. They might benefit from some of the great knowledge that Carissa shared with us today. Or if you haven't posted on LinkedIn today, if you click to share it, that counts as your post for today. Okay. And then share it and say, hey, I watched this amazing interview. Carissa's awesome. She had so many great design tips. And then, tag her in the post so she knows that you shared it out. That would really be awesome.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, so thank you, Carissa. I really appreciate you joining today. It was such a fun conversation.
Yeah,
I really liked
it was really fun. Thank you guys for joining, and hopefully, you're leaving with some helpful information from a design perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carissa, we're both here in Michigan. It's kind of like a mild day in Michigan. I don't know if you've been outside at
It
all
is.
today.
It feels like spring, but there's like little piles of snow. It's a little odd.
We get to this point of coldness in Michigan where we're like, I actually went outside to the bus stop with my son this morning. I'm like, it's kind of balmy outside. He's like, it's 40 degrees. I'm like, yeah, but it's warm.
Yeah, it very much.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Again today. All right, everybody, have a great day. Stay safe and stay healthy. I look forward to watching your progress on LinkedIn, and we will see you guys around. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.